It's the Brad and John Show.
Brad and John Show. Today is May 9th. It's a Friday, and this is the C block, the Charlie block, which means we start at right around 7:40. Okay, there was, earlier in this week, was it Wednesday, the contentious hearings on Capitol Hill with MTG about the women transgender sports things. You know what I'm talking about, John?
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, Nancy Mace was involved in that as well, right?
Right. And they had two women who were testifying, and the one woman was the lady who got brain damage she was a volleyball player, and she got whacked in the head by the transgender dudette, whatever you want to call them, the other team. And I think she actually was partially paralyzed or was in a coma for a while or something like that. And one of the experts, who I think was this fencing coach, you know what his suggestion was?
No, I didn't see that.
Well, he didn't talk about the fact that it was bad that we have transgender people, men playing women's sports. He essentially said we should outlaw spiking in volleyball.
Oh, yeah, let's change the game so that we can allow men to play.
Right. I'm going like, what? It's sort of like what the NFL did with kickoffs. There's too many people being injured on kickoffs, so we'll change kickoffs so nobody gets injured. It's football. You know what I mean? You have...
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt, but it's like the arrogance of people talk about mansplaining. What could be more mansplaining than saying, okay, girls, we're going to change the rules of your game to allow us as men to play your game. So all that you've practiced over the years and the skill and the craft of a proper set and a spike, we're going to change that because we have men that want to play this game.
You know, it's things like that. You just go and like, okay, what the hell was that? You know, I mean, anyway, okay. Can I tell you a Brad story yesterday? And John,
yes, please do.
If John was there, John would have got the biggest kick out of this. Okay, this is like the third time I've done this. Okay, I'm a very kind of guy that tries to essentially be prepared for. I wouldn't consider myself to be a prepper. Maybe I'm near prepper because I don't have all the food and stuff like that. But I have generators and I have stuff like that.
Yeah, you're a generator guy. I like that.
Okay. So yesterday, this is the third time this has happened. I passed on a road near my office a couple who was trying to change a tire in their car, okay? And I had to go back to my office to do something. I had a phone call to make. So when I came back out of my office, a half an hour later, I had another place to go. They were still out there trying to change this tire. So I pulled up. They were on the street near me, and I pulled up next to them. And I go, hey, you got a problem? Yeah, I can't get the lug nuts off. So there was a third guy. I don't know if he was a friend of theirs or somebody who just stopped by. And he's Mr. Macho Guy. And he puts the tire iron in the, I can do this. And he gets up on the tire iron. He's standing on the tire iron. And he can't get this lug nut off. Okay? So I go over to my car. And in my trunk, I have a high-powered torque wrench, impact
And you
wrench.
Carry that at all times, Brad?
I do. And a floor jack.
Wow, okay.
And a floor jack. So I say, and I pulled this out. I didn't say anything. I walked over to my car, got these things out of my car, and I went over and I had my impact wrench in a case that had a bunch of sockets in it. And I pulled this out, and the guy says to me, "Hey man, that screw gun's not going to work. It won't take those lug nuts off." And I said, "This is an impact wrench, and unless these lug nuts are welded on there, it's going to come off." So I sat down, and, being my age, they had a couple tires there. I sat on one of the tires, okay? So I fire up my impact wrench, and then take the 5 lug nuts off like that, okay? Nothing to it. So then I'm having a little trouble getting up because, I'm up there in years. I'm 89 years old. So the guy says to me, "Hey, man, you're an old guy. You can't get up." I'm thinking to myself, I'm helping these people out, and I get this dude insulting me. And the lady was very nice. She puts out her hand, and she says, "I'm a CNA. I will help you up. I help lots of people up, and I don't think you're old."
Aw, that's nice. So she lied to you, but at least she helped you.
Right, she lied to me. So I said, I can get up by myself, which I did. So at this point in time, the dude is still then got one of these crappy little scissor jacks, you know what I'm talking about, and he's still.
Yeah, I know that are like they come stock in your trunk when you buy a car.
And I said, let me just put my floor jack underneath the car, and I'll jack the whole rear end up, which I did. So then Mr. Helper has got the spare tire, and he tries to put it on backwards. You know, I'm going like, who is this guy and where did he come from and who put him in charge of tire changing? And the couple were sort of helpless because they didn't know anything. So the story continues, and the dude who's the driver of the car and the owner of the car says he just recently bought it. And I said, look, those lug nuts were on there way too tight because even with my torque wrench, took a little bit of my impact wrench, took a little bit of a, go to get the things off. I said, you need to take this to a shop and you need to have them retorque those lug nuts on all the wheels because if there's anything like this one, they're all too tight and you're going to get in a problem again where you're going to be on the side of the road and you get a flat tire. And he says to me, I don't know why the tire went flat. And I said, did you look at it? Because at this point in time, he was laying on the road next to him. And he says, yeah, I couldn't find anything wrong with it. So I said, let me take a look at it. And I pick it up and I roll it like a quarter of a turn. And there's a great big chunk of steel stuck in the tread of this tire. And I go, there's your problem right there. And he looks at it, he goes, oh, I didn't see that. I'm going like, how could you not have seen that? It was like about 1.5 inch long piece of steel that's wedged, it's just, stuck in there. And I said to the guy, I don't think you're going to be able to, and the tire was fairly new. I said, I don't think you're going to be able to get this repaired because, if you take it to a reputable tire shop, there's only so many size of a puncture that they'll repair. Otherwise, they'll say, it's beyond repair. It's not safe. So I go to my car and get my other tool bag out. I get my vice grips out, and I yank this piece of metal out of the tire. And it's like way down inside the side of the tire. I had to pry it up with a screwdriver and the whole bit. And I said to him, I think the tire's ruined. And this dude says, oh, I bet you I could fix it. And I'm going like, okay, thanks, Mr. Helper. So the lady and the guy thanked me. I threw my tools in my car and I left. I'm thinking to myself, I'm trying to help. I still have no idea who he was. He was a friend of theirs. Maybe he was another guy that drove by to help him out. I don't know. And it's to the point
I don't understand the point where he said you're an old guy, you can't get up. Did he offer you his hand or was he just making fun of you?
He was making fun of me.
Okay. And that really happened?
Honest to God, John. I'm going like, if my mom were there, my mom up in heaven, I could hear her look down and said, Brad, remember what I said? No good deed goes unpunished, Brad. That's what
Yeah. Now, Brad, how do you feel about roadside assistance? So, for example, if you're this couple, why don't you have AAA?
I don't know. Maybe they can't afford it. Not everybody's like you, John, that has AAA.
No, but let's be serious. Let's not avoid the subject. Like, how at a certain age do you think, you know what? If I had to change a flat tire in the rain, I could probably do it. But I'd probably rather have a professional do it and not stand on the side of 364 with cars speeding past me. Like of the things that you could spend money on, why wouldn't you pay a few dollars for roadside assistance?
John, let me explain that to you. And this is the reason why I don't have roadside assistance. I've had it before, okay? I have a problem. I call the number. Oh, we're really backed up. We'll be there in 5 hours.
Yeah, I never had that with AAA, but maybe. Now, Brad, I did call last year. You recall a year ago this week, I called a company that you recommended and had a really negative experience because they were way late and wildly incompetent. And the guy got there and complained that it was supposed to be his day off, to which I apologized. I said, I'm very sorry that I just got 2 flat tires on the way to a timely event. But I used your recommendation and it was a horrible recommendation and I'll never do it again.
Appreciate
and
it,
that's
John.
Right when I signed up eventually for, weeks later for AAA, Brad. So you're to credit for me renewing. I had let AAA lapse because I thought I didn't need it. But I'm glad that I did it. You can't just call, when your buddy says, oh, these guys are great. They've been on my phone for 31 years.
Okay, John, first off, once again, the reason I have my HVAC license from the EPA is that, and we're coming up on it again at the end of this month, and every once in a while I cringe when we have these 3-day weekends. I'm thinking to myself, okay, Friday before.
It's Memorial Day, and if you call somebody, they're at the lake on Friday, right?
Right, they're already gone. And when I say this to my craft people, to my air conditioner, my HVAC people, my electrical people, they laugh. They go, "You're right. That's the way it is," because they're all down at the lake. Matter of fact, just yesterday or just this morning, I heard. I don't know if you heard this or not. They're changing the lanes on Highway 40 going into St. Charles County. You know what I'm talking about? 4064.
No, I didn't know that.
They've already knocked down 2 lanes on the eastbound lanes of 40 on the bridge across the Missouri, and the reason they're doing that is because they're going to take 2 of the lanes of the westbound lanes of 40 and move them onto the eastbound lanes. This is all part of the Highway 40, 64, 70 interchange project, the whole bit. But what I heard this morning, Mark Cox talking about the fact that the Highway 54 bridge across the Missouri into Jefferson City is going to be down to 1 lane the entire summer. I'm thinking to myself,
no way. I read that earlier this week on my website, Brad.
I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, talking about, a boost for tourism, all the people from the St. Louis area that go down the Lake of the Ozarks, guess what? You think traffic will be jammed up for like about 10 miles on 54?
Yeah, but I mean, what's the alternative? Not fix it?
Well,
do it in winter when there's snow every week?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, there you go.
John, remember, you're talking about your AAA. Why do you have AAA? Because in the winter, that's when you have tired car problems. And those guys who work for AAA, I think they know what long underwear is like. And I think they know that they have their coveralls and things like that. And I think they dress for the weather. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, they certainly could do it. I would say that if you probably use US 54 a lot, you're probably happy that they're doing repairs. You're probably not happy the moment that your car starts slowing down on the highway. But, And by the way, all those people going to Lake of the Ozarks, they should be going to Florida because they could hang out with former St. Louis radio personalities down there.
You talking about J.C. Corcoran?
And everybody else that's important.
Why is that? Why does everybody retire to Florida? It has.
Well, it's because it's God's waiting room and the weather is nicer. Brad, I know that you're like, I'm the kind of guy that'll go out there and shovel. I know. But most people your age don't want to deal with snow. Most people your age know that they're one false move from breaking a hip. Why don't you go somewhere where there's not snow and where the weather is, 70 degrees in November and February and just live a nice, quiet, peaceful life?
Because I don't want to live a nice, quiet, peaceful life. I'm the guy, I still go back to my days of what was his name? The guy that, In Search of Excellence, I'm talking about Tom Peters. Remember Tom Peters?
Oh, yeah.
Tom Peters, who was the boy that, he was like the fanboy. Everybody was a Tom Peters fanboy because he wrote In Search of Excellence. And all these companies, we're in search of excellence. We're going to run our company in excellence. We're striving for excellence in so many different ways. And about his third book, fourth book was Thriving on Chaos. And everybody went, hold on a minute now. This isn't the Tom Peters we know. This is somebody has taken his brain and done something to it. He must have fallen down or broken a hip or something like that, like John would say. And once again, the idea being is that I thrive on chaos. I've admitted to the point where I'm somewhat ADD, but when the stuff, what Shelley always say, when the defecation,
when something hits the rotating oscillator, like when the defecation hits the rotating oscillator.
Right.
Brad, do you think that people, and this is a conversation that I had with someone earlier in the week, do you think that your industry, so for example, the radio industry and what you lived through in the 70s and 80s being at a popular station, do you think that the industry naturally attracts people that love chaos and love disorder? Or do you think normal people go into the radio industry, are surrounded by that, and then become chaotic?
No, it attracts a lot of drug users. I mean, I'll be honest.
Yeah, and you've covered the drug stuff before, but let's get back to my question. Do you think that people who are, so this gentleman and I were having a conversation about, does politics just happen to attract very vain, very selfish, very egotistical people? Or do normal people run for office and then they see their name on a yard sign and a billboard and then become super egomaniacs?
Well, I don't know. It's one of those things where you can say if someone says they're a CPA, you're going like, okay. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Years ago, I had some stuff going on with my business, and I tried to find a really hard-nosed a tough, rough edge CPA. Someone who was like, and you know what the interesting part of it was? I couldn't find one because they're all like,
yeah, because that's an oxymoron, right? Like they're like people that are attracted to that industry. They want stability, they want logic, they want reason.
except if you watch the movie The Accountant. Have you ever seen that movie?
No, is that like the movie The Secretary?
No, The Accountant's actually a very good movie. I think they just came out with The Accountant too. It stars Ben Affleck as he's on the spectrum and he's an accountant, but yet behind the scenes he's an international hitman, which is sort of interesting.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It really is. It's can be very trying at times, but it has a couple twists and turns which are sort of interesting. But anyway, I don't know. I mean, John, here's the thing. I say this again. Let's go back to 9/11. Okay, I lived through 9/11. You were a young guy at 9/11. You were like in your 20s. Why?
No, I was old. I was 23.
You were 23. Okay, I still say this was the difference between the United States and England. England, who had been bombed almost into oblivion during World War II by the Nazis, by Hitler, and they still have movies of people after a nighttime bombing raid, and there were heaps of rubble. It used to be buildings in England. People were out pushing baby carriages. They were out going to market, buying bread.
Keep
and stuff
calm
like that.
and carry on.
Right. Keep calm and carry on. And when we went through 9/11, remember, a lot of people don't remember this, but they also attacked the London subway system, the Tube, and they blew up some double-decker buses, the same terrorists that flew the planes into our towers. And the next day, they cleared away the rubble, and the double-decker buses were out on the roads again, and the people were back on the trains in the Tube. But yet, we had to hunker down for 2 weeks. Oh, my God. And to this day, if you want to know why we have this real ID thing, that goes back to 2001. It's the crazy weird thing about the fact that we're still dealing with the fallout from 9/11. The problem is that in the United States we've gotten soft. We've never been attacked. How do you think the people in Ukraine every day, when they don't know if the bombs are going to come get them, the missiles or the drones, the same thing in Israel every single day. The Hamas guys lobbing rockets into Tel Aviv and places like that. We've gotten soft. And sometimes it takes a kick in the posterior to make you realize that, you know what, you got to toughen up. You got to be self-disciplined. You got to be self-reliant. You have to maybe put some jugs of water in the basement and maybe put some of that dried up food in a little box somewhere where you could disappear and you get your bug out bag. And you know what I'm saying, John?
I know exactly what you mean. If anybody advocates for big jugs, it's Brad Hildebrand. Boy, I can't wait to just go listen to some more Gary Vee. Thank you, Gary.
Bye, John. Have a good weekend.
See you on Monday.